Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PressPlay Lifestyle Inspired Podcast. The PressPlay Lifestyle Inspired Podcast is a podcast that does interviews with inspiring people, as well as provides custom content and monologues on topics to help our listeners, that's you, find the resources, tools, and support that they need to be their best inspired self. Today, we are super lucky to have a colleague and friend of mine, AJ Bryant here. She and I met, I don't know, I'm going to say a few years ago, when we were sharing a common interest of helping people in high stress jobs put in place a solid self-care routine. And since then, as if she hasn't done enough and had all kinds of other wonderful jobs that help the community, she's got some more new things that she's up to. So hi, AJ. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Miss Jackie. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here, so thank you for having me.
Of course. So what did you want to talk to us about today? I mean, you have a couple things coming up. I could steer this, or I could just say, hey, tell us about your newest, most exciting endeavors. What do you think?
Well, there's three of them right now, and soon to be four. So I guess I'll just jump in. So I had started my own business called The Next Right Thing in June of this year. And I had started in order to combine my degree and my background in communications and writing and my experiences working with the courts and the legal system in technical writing and technical report writing, investigations writing, and really combine them all into, I call it a translation service. I feel like a lot of people get very anxious when it comes to writing their content and it comes to writing their blogs or their resources or doing their social media, because nobody wants to be the next negative viral sensation, because they forgot a the or misspelled a word, and all of a sudden it's blowing up in a really wrong way. And so what I try to do with The Next Right Thing is really just help people talk about their passion and talk about their purpose and why they're doing what they're doing, and then their content writes itself. And so you just have to break through that barrier of the anxiety and the I don't know what to say, I don't know how to say it, I don't know if I'm going to say it right or if I'm going to say it good. No, you can say it well. Let's say it well. And accomplishing that. But the newest piece of news, my husband and I just got off the phone yesterday with Trinity Publishing. They're a division of the Trinity Broadcasting Network, and they accepted my proposal for my first book. And we have a tentative release date for June of 2020. And I'm over the moon. I'm alternating between, oh my gosh, this is happening, and oh my gosh, this is happening. And then finally, the last big thing, I wasn't quite ready. I had spent 4 years with the sheriff's office and 4 years with the state of Colorado as a probation officer. And I'm very, very passionate, and I've spent hundreds of hours of training in the field of domestic violence and female trauma. And one of the things that was really frustrating with me, and something that we shared in our commonality, is there's a lot of skills out there for a lot of times, let's be honest, for offenders and for criminal rehabilitation. But on the professional side, we need those same skills, and they're not as readily taught because we're supposed to be habilitated. We were supposed to have got them the first time around, and a lot of us didn't. And a lot of us could benefit from these skills. And so I'm going to be launching with Miss Annika Wilson with Women of Worth, launching a domestic violence recovery coaching program. So approaching this from the fact that when we have gone through traumatic relationships or when we've gone through domestic violence experiences, it really, really warps our beliefs, how we view the world, I used to explain it like we all have a filter. We have a filter of how we receive information in, and then there's a filter that our information passes through on the way out. And if your abuse, your hurts, your traumas, your hangups, it's like putting those extra lenses in that filter. And so by the time it gets in, it looks totally different. And the time it gets out, it looks totally different. And really helping women and men, because they're also male victims of domestic violence, identify where those screens are in their filters and start taking them out and examining them. Why is this there? When did this get there? Well, is this still serving me? Is this something that I need to release? And getting down to identifying those beliefs is a hard process. It's a scary process, but it is so, so needed in turning our healing around from being and operating in a place of victimhood, because even though you are a victim and you have experienced those things, it doesn't mean that you have to stay there. And it doesn't mean you have to continue to live there in that zone. But you also have to take power and take your responsibility to get yourself out of that place.
That's interesting. So is your focus, or do you think your focus right now is going to be on the person who experienced the trauma themselves, or the people who are assisting the people who are experienced the trauma? I ask because I know some of your earlier works that you put together were very heavily focused on, I want to say military or and law
Right.
enforcement professionals who just seeing so much of the bad in the world, they
Right.
themselves sort of needing some support to get through that. Is it a similar thing with this, or are you actually shifting directly to the person that was going through the domestic violence?
I think it's a blend of both. In Colorado, and specifically in my hometown, domestic violence occurs at 50% higher the national average.
Oh my.
And so typically your statistics for females are anywhere from 1 in 3 to 1 in 4 women experience a domestic violence relationship at some point, and 1 in 3 women will experience some form of sexual harassment or sexual assault. And so in Pueblo in Colorado, that number is 50% higher. So that is closer to 2 in 4 women, or 1 and a
50%
half
of
out
women.
of 3. Right.
Yeah.
And so
Wow. That's
it's
hard.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It makes me so angry, and it breaks my heart at the exact same time. And I really don't know how else to even say that. If you're thinking about the fact that most domestic violence does not get reported, even though it is reportable, it does not get reported until after the 7th incident.
Mm.
You have literally thousands of women who and persons are suffering through those first 1 to 7 incidences. And it's just the statistics are mind-blowing. And what makes it even more heartbreaking to me is that those aren't numbers. Each number is a person. Each number is a life. Each number may or may not have children who are witnessing this. And
Mhm.
what the studies have shown us is that children who witness domestic violence, their brains and their physiology responds at the same level as if that was occurring to them personally. And so we run the risk of repeating this cycle. Either the child is going to, God forbid, become an abuser, or the child is going to seek an abusive relationship as an adult, because that is what is normal and that is what is familiar. And so unconsciously, we replicate those cycles. And you see a lot of people is like, oh, I don't know why this keeps happening. I don't know why this keeps happening to me. It's like I have a target on my back, or I have a target on my face. And it's like, no, unconsciously, you are still seeking those characteristics, because even though you don't want them, that is what still resonates with you as safe and familiar, despite the fact the rest of your brain knows this is hurting us.
Yeah.
And you have to be nice to your brain because your brain is so hardwired to survive. And every time we encounter some kind of traumatic experience, it's almost like your brain checks off a box. It's like, okay, we made it through that. So the way we handled it was right because we still survived. And sometimes the way we handle things is right. And speaking strictly for myself, a lot of times the way I handle things is wrong. And we have to learn, and they have to go back and figure out, why did I do this? How can I make this better? What happened here? And really evaluate. One of the things that I'm going to be taking my coaching clients through is called the belief pyramid. And so if you imagine a pyramid, and the foundation of that pyramid is our beliefs. And then the second layer is our thoughts. Our third layer is our feelings. And the very top, the very pinnacle of that pyramid is our actual action and reaction. And, above that, we have the stimulus, whatever invited us to respond. And a lot of us think when we encounter situations, we're only getting down to our thoughts or our feelings. Well, he did this, so I felt this way, and I thought this, so then I said this. But in reality, the driving force of that reaction is what you were choosing to believe in that moment about yourself, about your partner or the other person. And if those beliefs are flawed, if those beliefs have been warped by experiences of trauma, by experiences of pain and hurt and heartache, as a law enforcement officer, as a social worker, you become jaded as a defense mechanism because you encounter so much pain and you encounter so much heartache. So what is everyone else's worst day of their lives is your Monday. It's like, okay, so we're doing this today. All right. And it's really hard to realize how that is happening and why that is happening and how those lenses are flying into your filter. And it takes some work to get down there to that belief. And we had talked earlier this week about the word beautiful and how so many women have a very visceral reaction to taking physical compliments. For me, because of my experiences, because of my hurts and trauma,
Can't hear you, AJ. I can't hear. Oh, now you can. Go ahead.
okay.
Beautiful.
So, right.
Beautiful.
I sing that song and then I laugh at that song. But so that is a very visceral reaction that I have as a result of my survivorship. It took me almost 2 years to accept a physical compliment from my husband. And that's very humbling to say. It's almost embarrassing to say. But when I hear beautiful or when I hear a physical compliment, my immediate next thought is manipulation. I am waiting for what do you want? What do you want from me? What do you want to do to me? What do you want me to do for you? And so I'm waiting for that. And it was almost insulting and painful for me to hear that from my partner, because he thought he was extending a genuine compliment and genuine appreciation for his lover, for his person. And all I was hearing was, why are you not safe now? You are now no longer safe because I'm waiting for you to use me. And it took a while to actually identify that belief and where that belief was coming from, and a lot of tears and had a lot of painful conversations. But that's what it comes down to, is rooting out those beliefs and realizing where they come from and why. So you can start taking them out. When we're actually able to name and claim what we are feeling, it moves our emotions from the amygdala, from our instinctual fight, flight, freeze thinking into our executive functioning. And we're actually able to process it and we're able to understand it.
So do you think then, based on like your coaching that you're doing, does the belief triangle, or that you just described, you talked like very specifically about your relationship with your current partner, your husband, does that belief warp situation affect other parts of your life versus like just you and your relationship with your partner, but does it bleed into your work or into your spirituality or how you show up as a parent? I mean, what do you see happening if there's some warpage that didn't get supported?
I think depending on what the belief is, I think that bleeds over everywhere. That bleeds over into how you show up at work. That bleeds up to how you show up as a parent. I'm raising sons. I have 2 boys. They're 10 and 8, and they're humongous. They're absolutely huge. And I'm still trying to come to grips with the fact that I'm going to have a 6th grader next year. But my oldest was also not planned. He was an unplanned pregnancy that I experienced in college. And for a while, in that period of shame and absolute terror of, I don't know how to raise a kid, I don't know what I'm going to do with a kid, I considered abortion because I didn't know what other options I had, because I was just so scared. And consequently, I have battled with a belief that when my kids get sick, or when, something bad happens, that I'm being punished for that. That God would take away my kids because I didn't want them. And that's not a true belief. It's not even a remotely factual belief, but it's one that I had to really drill down on when I'm having these out of control fear responses when my kids get sick or when we have to go to the hospital. And okay, one of your cues, one of the things that you are dealing with a warped belief, is when your reactions do not match the stimulus. It's like, okay, it's 102 fever. Why are we crying right now? Why are you so scared that you're nauseous? That stimulus, your kiddo is sick and just wants to cuddle, does not match the reaction. And that's because the reaction that you're having is coming from that belief, based on past words, based on past experiences, based on past hurt. So when you are in that situation that triggers that belief, your brain is hauling everything up that helped you survive to this point. And what helped you survive to this point was all of those driving feelings, driving that fight, flight, freeze response. And so I think, to answer your question, depending on what the belief is, it's going to go everywhere. If your belief is, I'm not enough, or I'm not good enough, I don't have what it takes, I'm not going to measure up, that's going to show up in your marriage. That's going to show up in your parenting. That's going to show up at work, because every time you get a criticism, you're either going to completely internalize it and, oh my gosh, you're right, I'm so sorry. Or you are going to completely shut down. You're right, I'm not good enough. I messed this up because I'm not good enough. Or you're going to have a very angry, livid response, because that's additional evidence that you're not good enough and you're rebelling against that. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's completely and entirely dependent upon the belief that you're battling.
Yeah. So you said something interesting that I've heard a few times in the last couple guests as well, where people often talk about fight or flight, but I don't always hear fight, flight, or freeze, right? So I think everyone believes that if they're in danger, they're either gonna beat someone up or run away. Um, but often, right, like there's this third thing that could be going on if you're kind of being instinctual or kind of backed into sort of corner. How might freezing like show up for someone like if they're not really sure if they're struggling with some prior problem or some prior domestic violence or lots of different things could be
Mhm.
dramatic. And I think people get being mad is like their
Right.
fight, right? They get that. And they get being scared, like wanting to go away. But what might freeze like mean, like actually show up as for someone who's going through something difficult?
So a really good example, and one that we often used in training, was pulling up YouTube videos of pranks. Like somebody, the snowman, the moving angry snowman, who would try to jump out and grab people or just go rah and scare people. And you specifically saw those three reactions. You would see somebody like jump and then try to punch the snowman. Okay, there's your fighters. That's me. I hit people. Don't scare me. I will punch you in the face. Um, I've almost punched a client before who tried to scare me. It was not a good thing. Uh,
She
you have
promises
the
not to do that if you go to her, you know. That's why she started
I
doing
do.
video
I do.
coaching.
Then you have your people who just straight up run away. Okay, those are your flight. Your freezers, if you are watching those videos, those are the people who literally just shut down and can't move. They don't move. And you see that very clearly in those videos, and that's why it's a really good example of those instinctual responses. And so a freezer would be like someone who just feels so overwhelmed they can't make a decision. And it takes some conscious thought, some conscious effort in order to actually realize there's even options and what those options are. And one of the reasons that a lot of law enforcement start with really simple questions and really simple sentences is to battle that instinctual response. What's your name? What's your address? What are you wearing? Okay, those are all all questions that kick over your executive functioning, that kick you out of your amygdala brain where all of those instinctual responses are happening and kick over your executive functioning where you can actually start to calm down and start to think. If you see a lot of, like dash cams or body cams, and you'll see people who, they're in instinctual brain because they can't speak more than 3 or 4 words at a time. It was him. It was him. It was him. It was him. I got it. It was him.
Yeah.
Or they went that way. They went that way. They went that way. It's because literally their prefrontal cortex, where all of their adult decision making is happening, that is off right now. And so it's like we revert to being 2, because the amygdala is our most primitive part of our brain. And so our ability to process information and our ability to function is very, very, very limited. And the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, they can't be on at the same time. It's either one or the other. It's one or the other. And so some of your best first responders will go in with very calm voices. They will go in asking simple questions. They will go in and relate to the person. It's like, hey, I know this is really scary right now, but we need to talk about this, and relate on that level of understanding to help kick that executive functioning on so real stuff can actually happen.
So if someone, what would be an ideal client, I guess, for you? Like, what kind of person would go, oh gosh, yep, I should definitely talk to AJ. She's going to help me with fill in the blank. Like, what would that person kind of not look like physically? They'd be beautiful, of course, right?
They'd be beautiful, fabulous, darling.
But like, what might make them go, "Ooh, I should seek out some coaching," versus I should go to the psychiatrist, versus I should,
Right.
what does that look like for those people?
So, disclaimer, I am not a trained counselor. I do not pretend to be a trained counselor. I view my role in this as a coach. I am more than happy to work. If you are already working with a counselor, I am more than happy to work alongside you, um, in order to help make you and make your path more successful. My ideal client would be somebody who is either coming out of or has been in a domestic violence and unhealthy, manipulative, or abusive relationship, and they can see how that is affecting them. They can see how that is affecting their daily life, their daily decision making. And they're at that point of frustration where it's like, I don't know why I keep doing this. He didn't even hit me. So why am I so scared? I don't understand why, I like pretty clothes. So why am I continuing to wear really baggy, don't look at me, there is no colors in my closet clothes? Or, the list can go on and on.
You said something interesting. I think everything you say is interesting, but um, you just said, but he didn't hit me. It made me think to ask the question. It sounds so generic, but maybe I have to ask it generically because I don't know your field. But what is domestic violence? Is it only like when the big, mean, scary person punches you in the face, or are there other types of um, abuse that are kind of under that umbrella that cause the same types of responses?
So, in the state of Colorado, domestic violence is actually what's called an enhancer. It is not a criminal charge. It is a enhancer to another criminal charge. Okay, so harassment is very, very broad. It's one of your more common domestic violence charges. Um, and harassment, to use the language of the statute, is any act that is intended to annoy, offend, otherwise cause alarm. And so, if I were to say, Jackie, you're such a bee, okay, and if you were so inclined, you could say that that was harassment. You felt alarmed, you felt offended. Okay, that would statutorily meet the definitions of harassment. Um, Harassment can also be classified as pushing, shoving, kicking. So this would be like a scuffle before a fight. That could fall under harassment. Um, Third degree assault is any unwanted or unwelcome touch. If I pinched you and you said ow and you felt pain, that is third degree assault. It was unwelcome touch that caused you pain. Statutorily, it meets third degree assault. Um, this sounds weird, but, and I mean this with all respect and tenderness, because this is a very hard
Oh,
subject, right? Honestly, it is almost easier with domestic violence when it's physical, because then without a shadow of a doubt it's happening and you're not crazy. When you're getting punched in the face, when you're getting thrown up against a wall, when your phone is being taken away from you, when you're not allowed to talk to your family, all of those things. However, you don't necessarily know when you're being isolated from your support system. You don't necessarily know when he's not being supportive and supporting your dreams. No, he's making sure you don't have any access to money so you can leave. I don't want you to have to work. I want you to be able to stay home and take care of the kids and do what you want to do. And then suddenly you're having to ask for money for groceries. You're having asked permission to use the car. You're having to ask for gas. You're going to have to ask for money that's supposed to be yours. Or
okay. So when you say easier, I don't think that was the rest of the sentence. Do you mean easier to identify or easier to like
I
get it?
think it's right. I think it's easier to identify as the victim, because the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, the financial, all of those other different aspects, even sexual, because you can be raped by your husband, you can be raped by your wife. If you have the same rights to say no inside a marriage or inside a dedicated relationship as you would to a stranger. Um, but it's a lot harder to identify from the inside when those other things are happening, especially when you're being told, oh, you're just like, why are you being like that? Why are you being like that? Why are you being so crazy? Don't even start. We're not having this conversation. A word that gets thrown around a lot with domestic violence is called gaslighting. And that's goes back to a very, very old classic movie, where the wife had inherited a fairly substantial inheritance, but the husband was not included. And if she died, it went to somebody else. So what he figured out he could do is, if he got her committed and say that she did not have the faculties in order to manage the money, then he could get the money. And so the term gaslighting comes from the fact he was manipulating the amount of gas in the lights of the home. And so they would be suddenly too big and too bright, or very, very dim, or flickering on and off. And every time she would comment on it, he would say, well, I don't see the problem. It looks normal to me. I don't know what you think you're seeing, but it looks normal. And so what gaslighting is it is setting up a specific situation to curry a specific response and then deny this response is valid. So you'll see this with sexting. You'll see this with money. We made a specific plan to do this. Like, I don't understand why you could do that. Well, I don't get what the problem is. It's my money. So why do you have a problem? And you'll hear so many, I hate using the word victims because that's very typifying. You will see so many people, so many women who have endured domestic violence say, I just feel like I'm crazy. He makes me feel like I'm crazy. He makes me feel like I'm crazy. And that's a control tactic. Because if you can't trust your feelings, if you can't trust what you know and believe to be happening, then who's going to believe you? Why should I believe you? Why should you do this? Because you're not worth it. You're crazy. You're just a bee. You're just a, fill in whatever other unkind word comes to your mind. And that's also a further way of minimizing feelings, a further way of making you feel less. Because at the root of, I would say, a good 95% of domestic violence is fear. It's insecurity. It is, I have to make my partner believe that there's nobody else out there for them, so they don't leave me. I have to take away any way for them to leave me, so I always have what I need.
Yeah. Wow. So I think what I'm hearing, because there's a lot of input, is
this is my thing. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. So there's a lot of different things that could be causing a person to feel, or that is domestic violence. They may not necessarily have been able to say that it is. And you're probably not crazy, person listening to this. You're probably not crazy. Double check with someone else first. So if someone wanted to just be supported, right? That they know they've gone through what they've gone through. They not like they've got to be past the point where they're saying, "Oh, that didn't happen to me," right? That's probably more counseling. But if they're looking for skills sets, like skills and new coping techniques, new ways to move forward toward a happier, more inspired life, would that be more of a like coaching candidate, someone who's
Yes.
like kind of through the icky, sticky, it's all my fault, I'm a bad person part, and onto the,
Right.
all right, I know that I'm thinking this and I know it's a story or belief that I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware, and therefore I would like a new strategy. How can I get new strategies? Like, is
Right.
kind of a coaching client that would make sense?
Yes. No, that would be definitely where my people would be. It's, you're through, God willing. And if you are in the situation and you're like, oh my gosh, that's me, but I don't know how to leave, please contact me. I will help coach you through that. I will help you get in touch with resources that are in your area so you can do that. Because you are not crazy. You are not crazy. And but on the other side, if you are through probably those first 30 days after you leave and you are on that uphill battle of, okay, I'm done. I'm never going back. I want to reclaim my life.
Now what?
Exactly. It's like, okay, I said that out loud. Crap, I said it out loud. Now it's out there.
What's in the universe? Yeah.
It's in the universe. The universe is going to hear me. Yes, the universe heard you. So, let's get your bags. Let's pull out all of it. Pull out all of the junk. All of the junk. Let's look at it. Let's call it what it is. And then let's decide what you actually truly want to carry, because you have that choice. You have the choice of what you want to carry. We all have experiences. We all have history. And I think one of the biggest strengths I have that I can bring to the table is there is very little left that shocks me. Precious little. Very, very little.
Is it good or bad? Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
But
I think I heard, I'm sure someone deserves credit for this topic or this this thing I'm about to say, but one of the things that I have found in the last few years is I've been finding new resources for myself, not through domestic violence, but through other things that I've struggled with, is like freedom is actually a real thing,
mm-hmm.
but freedom is having a choice.
Right.
Right. And so if you're in a situation, domestic situation, any situation where you honestly feel you have zero choices, usually that's an indication that you're not free. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
not free, then there's
Why?
something going on, right? What's the why behind that and what's going on? And I think that is a lot of where all the coaches I've met and the people I've been talking to recently and a lot of our podcasts, the people who've been so gracious to let us interview them, that's what coaches are amazing at offering, is injecting into your life a place where you feel you're stuck and you have no options at all, and helping you find that feeling of freedom with something as simple as offering you choices you just didn't know were available.
Right. And I think the biggest thing that you battle, or that I've battled, my clients have battled, is struggling to believe that you're still worthy, that you are still worthy of everything that you wanted before that relationship sucked the life out of you. Because it is a vacuum of all of your passion, all of your energy, for many of us, all of our money, all of your support, all of your positive, anything in your life is getting sucked into that. And it takes a long time. No, it does not take a long time. It took me a long time to really grasp onto the fact that you are still the same person inside that you were before you went into that relationship. All of those goals, they may look different. They may look different now, but all of those same goals, all of that same drive, all of that same desire that you had before that vacuum took a hold of you is all there. And it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of guts to open yourself up and say that you want to try. And I don't want, balls to the wall. Yes, we're doing it. Rah! It's like, you know what? That is amazing. I'll work with that till kingdom come. But what I want is the people who are like, I just want, like, all I got is a tiptoe. I can't even give you a full step. I just want to tiptoe after this direction, after the life that I really want. But all I got is a tiptoe. Like, that's all I can start with right now. Okay.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Those are the people who have lasting change too, though, right? Like the people that, take one bite of the elephant every single day are the ones that eat it all.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I personally try to take the whole pack of and the herd on at once. It might not always serve me, but I think that's lovely. That and again, that's actually why this podcast sort of started off. Was I started out in the caregiving space. My mom was ill. My dad's recently passed. I have a child on the spectrum, and what I wanted to do, and I put together and made an application or an app for families to help provide resources, tools, and support, right? To help them be
Right.
I wouldn't even go with their best self, just to feel like they were a self, like that they had,
Exactly.
like they were their existing. And what I found on that journey was like people like you that were able to help in a very specific way and a very specific thing, because you fought some of your own demons in that path. And sometimes you just need someone who's been took one more bite of the elephant than you did, and not the whole thing, and maybe not solve their whole life's problem, but that have walked that path at least one shoe in front, so that you're not alone, and that you can find new resources, you can find new skills, you can find new ways to show up. That's been my experience with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, was there anything else you'd like to add to the audience, or to let them know about, your coaching, or anything else that might be a good parting words for our listeners today?
That thing in your heart that scares you, the thing that gets you so excited and so terrified at the same time, whatever that thing is, you need to do it. One of the most pivotal questions I think two things. One was a statement and one was a question. And when I was in that place with my oldest, when I hadn't been able to decide whether or not I was actually going to keep the baby, give him up for adoption, have an abortion, that was the most intimate experience I believe I've ever had, with just feeling abject shame and just total despair. I can't even describe it. And I told one of my closest guy friends, and I just said, he was like, Joseph, like, I'm pregnant. And he said, I love you. And that was the first words out of his mouth was, I love you. And then he told me something that resonates in my soul to this day. And he said, and if you had the balls to stop being afraid, you would see the beautiful blessing that God is trying to give you for the crappy decision that you gave him. And every time I want to give up, every time I'm just like, I can't do this, it's too much, I can't do it, that comes back to mind. As if you had the balls to stop being afraid, and that that God was big enough to do what he said he could do, what would happen right now? And then I was reading recently, and this is the between you and Beth Moore, Miss Jackie, oh my goodness, you guys are chewing me up one side and down the other.
I don't chew.
But she wrote in her book, Audacious, she said, what is the one thing in your life that you truly can feel that the love of God is compelling you to do? And what is the next thing you can do to do it? It's not, not how can you finish? How do you finish tomorrow? How do you finish in a week or a month or a year? But what is the next thing to accomplish that purpose?
Isn't the name of your company The Next Right Thing?
It is. But it's the next right, WRITE, because that is what I do.
But maybe your theme is the next right thing, and it's both words with right.
Exactly. Because and that was what for 4 years, that's what I told my clients. We're talking really, really hard life change, sobriety, staying straight off drugs, not continuing to have criminal behavior patterns. And it's like, what do I do? Like, this hole is so deep. This hole is so big. Like, I don't even what do I do? And my smart answer, the first one was, well, stop digging, stupid. Number one.
That's
but then number two, stop looking at the whole hole. Just figure out, one, how to put down the shovel. Okay, let's do that first. Let's not make it any deeper. But secondly, if there's a brick, if somebody threw a brick down there at you, awesome, stand on it. And if the walls are coming down, great, stand on them. And keep standing and keep moving until you get out. You're not going to get out of this hole in a week. You may not even get out of this hole in the 2 years that we're spending time together. But you can continue to choose to take another step and take another step, or another tiptoe, or another across the line. You can do that. And you can do that every day. If we do something in our life 1% better every day, in a year, we are 365% better than where we started.
Yeah.
So
lovely. I kept thinking, this is like totally a bad analogy of it, but I was like, I have little kids. So I'm like, stop digging, keep swimming. Yeah. And then I was like, step up to the light. So all my bad jokes are in there now. I'm done.
But it's true. Just keep swimming. If you stop swimming, you drown.
Right. Stop digging, but swim. Yeah, that's fun. Okay. That was too serious of a topic for me to make that bad joke, but well, as always, I love to talk to you. I love what you're doing. I know this will make you mildly uncomfortable for 4 seconds, but I think that you inspire me because you're one of the people that take the lemons and make the lemonade. And you've taken the challenges that have come up for you, and you've turned those challenges into gifts that you can give to other people. And if keep doing this podcast is lovely because you keep meeting wonderful ladies like yourself, and gentlemen. I've had some great guys on too. We just keep collecting each other, right? Because eventually, we'll spread. Like, not like a disease though, like something good that spreads. I don't know what that is. Maybe viral. We'll be viral kindness. And be able to help others. And a one last interesting parting word I thought I would throw in there. You are not my first guest to mention Annika Wilson. So it might be, I might need to figure out if she might be a guest for us, because she seems to be inspiring the inspired, which is wonderful, right?
She and I spent a lot of time on the phone in the past 2 weeks getting some different things set up. I'm going to be launching this recovery program on her platform, Women of Worth. And one of our driving forces together is just genuity. You know what? One of my favorite words in the entire world is a Japanese word. And I'm going to butcher it. So if there's any native speakers on here, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. But it's called kintsukuroi. And it is the practice of mending what has been broken with precious metals. So, I live in a house with boys.
Lots of cracks there.
2 windows right now that are boarded up, courtesy of marbles and race cars at a baseball. Okay. Because boys. But it's the Japanese belief that something is more beautiful for having been broken. It now has a history. It is now more beautiful because of suffering. And I tell my clients, I'm like, please don't look up to me. Please don't. Please don't. Because I'm on the same road. I have the same story. I'm just a couple chapters ahead. You know, so please don't put me on any kind of pedestal. That's not my place. That's not my purpose. I feel like it's bad grace to receive something, to learn something, and not turn around and help the person behind me. That's not fair. To me, that's not right.
I literally did a podcast this morning, or a quick Facebook Live this morning that was, and I get really passionate about this one. I say, like, high tides rise all boats, and you're no
I
less.
love that. I saw that.
And you're no less a queen by straightening some other queen's crown.
Yeah.
Right. We're all still royalty. And so yeah, maybe we can make kindness viral. That would be a great, side benefit of spending time on the podcast together.
Right.
All right. Well, I would like to just say thank you again. We've totally run over our time, but I'm not that surprised that we would do that. But in the podcast notes for all of our listeners, we'll be sure to put some resources to AJ, her writing service, as well as when she has all of the specific details. That was a bad word, but all the details on your new coaching program. We'd love to share that with the audience as well.
I'm so excited. I can't wait. So thank you so much. Thank you all for listening and hanging in there. I appreciate you.
I do too. All right. We'll see you soon. Bye.
We'll see you. Have a good one.